class, we, group number 1, is going to explain one of the methods of clarification of course definition. For the students like us, there are many chances to listen to the lecture on formal speeches. And we, especially the SGHS students, should listen and understand those speeches, even in English. When you listen to those kinds of speeches, it is hard to fully understand since we're not native English speakers. And during the speech, it is hard. During the speech, if you have questions about the terms or phrases that you didn't clearly understand, you cannot just raise your hand and cut in and ask your questions to the speakers. So it'll lead you to just skipping it. So you'll have all those curiosities and big concepts in your mind for the whole entire speech. And in this case, the speech is not clearly conveyed to the audience. To get rid of these things to happen, it is important to define words when you use it. For the further explanations of why it is so important, Jibin will give some reasons and examples, and then Chuyeon will list the types of definitions, and Woo-jin will give some guidelines for using it. And then finally, Do-yeon will conclude our presentation. So let's move on to our next speaker, Ji.
I answer the question why clarifying words is important in our speech. There are several reasons, and that's what I'm going to talk about. First one is, audience can confuse the word itself by its similar pronunciation with other words. For example, if I say, this is the root of the program, some might accept it as root of the marathon project, or some might understand it as the origin of the program. And second one is that newly created words such as technical medical terms can be difficult to audiences. For example, when I say triskaidekaphobia, I better to say, have you ever heard about the phobia on number 13, triskaidekaphobia? Like this. And in addition, changes of meaning of some words can also be the factor of confusion in our speech. And the next one is, one word can have several different meanings. For example, aspect. Aspect has two meanings, appearance and perspective. And if the intended meaning is just an appearance of someone, unusual one, most of the audiences will get confused in our whole speech. And in contrast, related to this, using different words, even though we mean the same thing, can also be a factor of confusion in our speech. And the last one is, strong emotional image of word can distort the real intended meaning of our speech. For example, the farewell. If I say the farewell with sadness, even though the phrase itself has positive meaning, the audiences will face the negative feelings of first time when they hear this farewell. And the next speaker, Juyeon, will talk about the type of definitions.
Now I'm going to introduce you 5 types of definitions. First is short definitions. At times, we can use only 1 or 2 words to define an indefinite word, and that is the short definitions. When you use short definitions, you should be careful not to say like, this word means blah blah blah, just use similes instead. And second, when you give long explanations about something because of subject or purpose or need of audience, we use extended definitions. And sometimes, even the whole speech can be used to explain or define a thing. This kind of extended definitions also. Next, acronyms. Acronyms are words formed from initial letters or major part of a compound term like FDA, Free Trade Agreement. Situationally, we can just tell the actual word like I did just now, or give some more information about the word, such as main purpose or process of FDA. And you can see the next type of definitions in dictionaries. It is classification. By defining for classification, we can start from general groups and then focus on to the specific points. Quoting from an authentic dictionaries also gives you more reliability. And last is operational definition. Speakers use existing words in different ways, giving them special meanings that the speakers made personally. And we use operational definitions in order to convey the speaker's intention more exactly to the audience. These are the 5 definitions of types of definitions, and the next speaker, Ujin, will give guidelines for using definitions.
There are 5 guidelines for using definitions. First, you should not overuse definitions. Otherwise, you might end up confusing your audience. Provide handouts like this or provide it on the board in order to help the understanding of your audience. Second, use generally accepted words. You should use clearly defined words to help the understanding. Third, don't use a defined word in another context. For instance, if you define the word minor as some kind of subject and later use it as a word that means a person whose age is under 18, it will definitely confuse your audience. Fourth, keep your audience in mind. Imagine you're speaking in front of the children in the kindergarten and you start explaining about esophagus. Esophagus is a food passage in your body. And if you do not explain what esophagus is, they must have difficulty understanding it. Lastly, don't define the word using that's equally difficult to understand. For instance, if the speaker says the current situation is capricious, and the audience might not understand the meaning of the word. And if one of the listeners asks what the capricious means, and the speaker says it has same meaning with whimsical or mercurial, like this, audiences will just go panic because they cannot understand what the speaker is talking about. From now on, we will conclude our presentation.
Now let's remind the whole things about using definitions. First of all, why definitions are important. Everyone has different background, and if they hear the same word, they think differently. So it makes your audience be confused and your message presents wrong. So we need definitions. And there are several types of definitions. Do you remember? Short definitions, extended definitions, definitions of acronyms, definitions by classification, and operational definitions. And there are some things that you have to notice. 1. Don't overuse. 2. The general. 3. Don't use a foreign word to mean another word. And 4. Suit the audience. Did you enjoy our speech and learn from it? Then you'll be able to use definitions in your next speech and deliver more clear and precise presentation.